Hey there, thanks for purchasing Motion Revolver Defocused. I'm Tyson France, and this is your video tutorial to help you customize the project. So let's go ahead and watch the preview video once again to show you what you'll be creating with this project. All right, well that's pretty much it. We have 6 different looping, defocused particle type animations that work great for backgrounds and such. So why don't we just go ahead and dive right into the project. As you can see by opening up the zip file, the project came with 6 pre-rendered HD loops, 1280 by 720 resolution. Those are 15-second loops, but with the After Effects project, you can create up to 30-second loops that are already pre-made and choose a resolution of up to full HD of 1920 by 1080. So if you liked the animations but wanted to tweak them further or create your own and customize them to whatever you need them to be, this is what I'm going to show you how to do. So when you open up the After Effects project file, you'll notice 3 main folders that don't touch these comps folders, which is pretty self-explanatory. You don't need to change anything in there. There's actually, other than this stuff, which isn't going to be included in the project, the only thing that's going to be in here is a solid, so there's really not anything in this folder anyway. The green labeled folder, defocused particles, this is where all 6 main animations are built. And then the render your animations folders contain the resolutions at which you can choose to render. So, all right, first things first, defocused 1. When you twirl down any of these defocused folders, you'll see they're pretty much structured in the same way. Each folder contains 2 different compositions. One is a 15-second loop, denoted here by loop 15, and one is a 30-second loop denoted by loop 30. Pretty self-explanatory, but just in case that's not clearly evident, that's what the file naming means. So I guess, let's just open up this real quick here and show you how this is built. This is the 15-second loop. All these compositions, by the way, are built at 1920 by 1080. And then if you were to choose one of the smaller resolutions here, they're just scaled down to fit the bounds of the composition. So anyway, each composition is set up in the exact same way. Each master composition, I should say, is set up in the same method. It's just a loop, basically a loop of the main composition. So this being the first one here, we have some large floating orb type particles with a tealish green or blue to a pink gradient. So let's say we wanted to edit this a little bit further. Let's say we really liked this animation, but we didn't really like the colors, or we wanted the particles to be bigger or smaller, or we wanted the particles to be something other than the orbs. This is how you're going to customize that. So inside of each defocused folder, you're going to twirl down the setup folder. And inside of each setup folder is a build composition. And this build composition, as I'll show you, there's a 1 build, 2 build, 3 build, and so on for each different animation. Each build composition, that is where all the magic happens. So you twirl that open, and you'll see all the layers in here that build this animation. The particles layer being the layer with the particular plugin applied. So For example, let's say we wanted our particles to be, smaller. We just twirl down the particle attribute here, and we'll change the size to from 120 to 80, and maybe we'll bump up the emitter since seems like there's less now since we reduced the size. So yeah, that's pretty much where you would change your particles. I don't want to go into too much depth explaining how to use particular. That would be another project at another time, but if you need help, using the particular plugin, you can always find more at, I believe it's redgiant.com or redgiantsoftware.com. Whoever owns the Trapcode suite nowadays, I can't remember exactly. I think it's Red Giant. But anyway, there's a particular layer. There's a vignette layer here that kind of gives you a nice edge. And the tint, I guess that would be another thing that you might want to change fairly quickly. So the tint is controlled through a ramp. The set points are about right here and right here. Kind of creates a bit of a diagonal, gradient. So really we could just change this. I don't know, let's say we wanted more of a bluish, almost like a watery texture. That's pretty much how you just change the color. Nothing really much more to it. That's pretty much it. Another thing you may want to play around with, of course, is the fractal layer. In this fractal layer, I added the fractal noise plugin just to give the background a little bit of undulating texture, just so it's not just a straight gradient. It adds a little bit of light shift to the background, and even though you don't really see it much, it just kind of tricks your eye into not seeing such a static solid color background. It just adds a little bit more interest there without you really even knowing it. Just a little bit, one extra step that you just kind of need to make it happen. Adjust that here real quick. I realized that was on the wrong layer. But anyway, so that is Defocused 1. That's the 15-second loop. Of course, like I said, you can create up to a 30-second loop for each of these animations, and in each folder is a 30-second loop. And as you can see, it is pretty much the same concept, just a longer composition. Nothing too complicated here. There's no rocket science involved. Same thing throughout each composition. One thing that might be different in one of these comps, I'm trying to think. This one's pretty straightforward. This is kind of like the dusty, lighted room up in the corner with dust flying through the air. Always loved that effect. This one. Okay. Defocused 5 would be an example of where we use a different particle. And that's going to take me to this global folder in a second. But I'm just going to show you, I'm going to open the setup comp and open up the Defocused 5 build. As you can see, our particles are kind of hexagon-shaped particles. Just kind of mix it up rather than doing the typical, glowing sphere or orb, whatever have you. So really, the particular plugin, which I have 3 layers here to kind of easily separate background, midground, and foreground to give it a little bit better perspective. Each one of these particular layers accesses this particle hex prep layer, which is, if we open up the global composition, this is where I have 2 different particles prepared. And this particle hex prep layer, if we open this up, this is the prepared particle for this animation. So for example, if I'm trying to think here, if we wanted something other than these hexagon particles, we would have to go into our particular layer, and I'm going to single this out so that we can see exactly what's going on here. If we wanted something other than that hexagon layer to be our particle, let's say we did want it to be the glowing sphere or dust particle or like orb type thing, we'd have to go into here, into our particle layer again, change this from sprite to sphere or glow sphere, whichever, and there we go. That's how that changes. That's also a very cool effect, and you could even mix and match it. You could have some, be the hexagon layer. You could have some be the orb. It really does actually, provide a lot of interest. You can really mess around with how that looks. As a matter of fact, I actually really like the way that looks with just a little bit of touch with the hexagon layer. Don't forget, you can even also add animations to these particle prep comps. If you wanted to animate the particle or add your own animation in its composition, it would be repeated throughout all of these particle sprites. So that's an interesting thing to think about. So that's that. That is how pretty much you would customize any of these compositions. It's pretty straightforward and consistent throughout. Like I said, nothing too complicated. You just really have to know how to use particular. That's pretty much it. And I'm assuming if you purchase the product, you probably already do know how to use it. So next thing is, all right, let's say you adjusted your compositions and you're happy with what the results are. Now you just need to render it out. This is where you come to your render your animations folder and choose your resolution. The resolutions range from 720 to 1080, and even at standard definition 780 comp set up here for you. So if you would need a standard definition resolution, that's already prepared. And as you can see, each resolution has the folders already prepared, loops 1 through 6 for each animation, and each folder contains either the 15-second or 30-second loop, and each file name is denoted with the resolution at the end. 720, 1080, 480. So when you render these out, you know which resolution is which, and there's no guessing or anything like that. Very straightforward, very easy to set up. That pretty much concludes this tutorial. As always, if you have any further questions or comments, questions, I think I already said questions, yeah. It's a bit early in the morning here, so sorry for any confusion there, but as always, please contact me through videohive.net or email me directly at tyson@motionrevolver.com. And once again, I hope you enjoy this project, and good luck with it. Thanks a lot.